Thank you for staying with us. Now, the Nigeria Labour Congress, that's the NLC, and the Trade Union Congress have dumped the minimum wage negotiation after the federal government offered to pay 48,000 naira as against the 615,000 naira demand as the new national minimum wage. The dissatisfied labor leaders summoned an emergency press conference where they vented their displeasure with the offer, describing it as an insult to the sensibilities of Nigerian workers. This was the second time in 2 weeks that the negotiation had run into a stalemate. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ajaero, and his counterpart in the Trade Union Congress, Festus Osifo, are insisting that the current minimum wage is not sufficient for Nigerian workers, and the proposition of the federal government is not good enough.
The government's proposal of a paltry 48,000 naira as the minimum wage does not only insult the sensibilities of Nigerian workers, but also falls significantly short of meeting our needs and aspirations. In contrast, organized private sector proposed an initial offer of 54,000, though it is worth noting that even the least paid workers in the private sectors receive 78,000 naira. As clearly stated by the organized private sector, highlighting the stark disparity between the proposed minimum wage and prevailing standards, further demonstrating the unwillingness of the employers and government to faithfully negotiate a fair national minimum wage for workers in Nigeria.
Well, joining us via Zoom from Abuja is public affairs analyst Dayo Lumuwagun. Dayo, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Now, organized labor has said that they are pulling out of conversations with the federal government because it seems to them that the government is not ready to deliver on what it wants. Do you think is the right decision to take?
So maybe I was negotiation that's going on. Maybe that's not the best decision, especially if we still have opportunity to continue to discuss until there's a compromise between the parties. But having said that, it is important to also say the reasonabilities. The government is insulting the sensibility of the Nigerian workers. So I think we also need to look at the seriousness of the government in terms of what they are putting to the table and the expectation of the Nigerian labor, the Nigerian workers in terms of what they're expecting as the minimum wage.
Are you saying that government hasn't shown sincerity and seriousness to really address this matter?
So I'm not sure of the level of effort the government has put into this, but we all live in Nigeria today. And proposing, I personally don't think this is correct. I personally think this is not right. We'll buy you a bag of some of these workers, they have their spouses, they have maybe 2 or 3 children, maybe a family of 6 or a family of 4. How do you live on 48,000 naira? Trade in the economy in times of the inflation, in times of the prices of goods and services. You clearly agree with me that 48,000 Nigerian workers are possibly, are clearly worse than where they were. You can look at the history of minimum wage increases in Nigeria since 1991 when it started. If you look at it, there have been some marginal. 1991, the minimum wage was increased for the first time to 250 naira. And I'm going to be using dollars benchmark since most of the things we consume in Nigeria is imported. They are imported anyway. And 1999 was getting about $31 per month. Another increment happened in 2000, where it was increased to 5,500. In Nigeria, we have a marginal increase. In 2011, it was also increased to 18,900. Effectively, that was about one. Come to, and to 30,000 in 2019. To $83. 48,000 naira per month that the government is proposing. That's bring the Nigerian dollars or $32 per month from $83 a month to $32 per month. I think for the workers saying the government is insulting their sensibilities, maybe they're not far from it.
Well, personally, I'm having to struggle, to hear most of the things that you're saying due to the network glitch that we are having with, during this conversation. But if I want to get you right, do you feel that the government is not exactly, proposing what is beneficial to the Nigerian workers? Because the labor union is asking for, I think, 614,000 naira, 615,000 naira. Is that even realistic to start with?
615,000 naira is a lot of money. And in any case, they have the analysis they have done, they have the whatever market survey they have done to come about the amount they have put in. But I think that's a bogus amount. And I think if that is paid, the economy cannot sustain it. The inflation and the multiplier effect of what is going to happen to the consumer, everybody. But on the other side, I just also think that 48,000 naira in the current realities of our economy is just way too low. And I think the government should be able to do more. There are a lot of, I think it's just a matter of putting our priorities right as a country. What are we spending money on? What are we spending money on? So there is a lot of wastages in the economy. The government is trying to do their best. I think they should look inward. There's still some, lot of wastages in the economy. So I give you this example. For the first time and I'm sorry to tell this way, as a chartered accountant, I began to look at the budget of Nigeria for 2024. And you see all kinds of leakages and wastages pumped into the budget. So for example, I asked sponsoring people to the holy lands. All religions say if you have your resources, you can go. But we have some most critical things in our hand in terms of your worker, in terms of motivating your workforce. So I think the government should look other way, look at where wastages are, see what the savings they can make from all those wastages, and also look at how they can generate more money, more investment for the country, and now see realistically how much can we really pay the workers as minimum wage. 615 is not realistic. It's bogus, and I'm sorry. The laborers have their whatever underlying assumptions, but I don't think the economy can accommodate that now. But
So,
the same thing, I don't.
So now that the federal government is proposing 48,000 naira, where do you think the meeting point should be? What exactly should they meet? 615,000, 48,000 naira, which you say is a far cry, from that amount that is being requested. So looking at today's realities, what exactly do you think they should, rely on? They should settle for, because even the private sector is, I think, 51,000 naira thereabouts. That's what they say. So which figure are you looking at?
I may not be definitive in my figures, but I think the parties should sit down again and continue negotiation and look at get a middle ground. Maybe I think 150 or 200 is not a lot of money in Nigeria. You agree with me? Where you cannot even cook a pot of soup. Decent soup with 20,000 naira. It's gone. So, a bag of rice. So, country is facing some critical, we are in a critical period. The challenge is all over the place, and we won't pretend we don't know that Nigerians are happy. Nigeria is going through a tough time at the moment. But I think the government should bring them back to the negotiation table, be more reasonable, look inward and see what we can reduce, the estate wastages we can reduce, and also give that leadership in times of, if you are calling us to manage at this time, if you are calling us to bear with you at this time, we should also see that this financial discipline with government, people with government officials. So you cannot say,
All right, Mr.
As
Lemuwagu,
children in
if
the
you can
house,
hear
and
me,
there is there's
we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation with you. Just stay with us.
Our planet, our home, threatened by man's activities with fears of mass extinction on the rise. On Green Angle, we examine the issues that affect our environment, seek solutions to put us on track to secure and restore a cleaner and greener world for generations to come.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Maya Angelou was a civil rights activist, poet, and award-winning author known for her acclaimed 1969 memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and her numerous poetry and essay collections. Angelou was born on April 4, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. Angelou had a difficult childhood. Her parents split up when she was very young. Around the 1960s, Angelou lived in Ghana working as an editor and a freelance writer. Angelou also held a position at the University of Ghana for a time before she joined a community of revolutionist returnees exploring Pan-Africanism and became close with human rights activist and black nationalist leader Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. In 1961, Angelou appeared in an off-Broadway production of Jean Genet's The Blacks with James L. Jones, Lou Gossett Jr.
Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were talking about minimum wage, labor pulling out from the conversations with the government with regards to an agreed amount. Government is proposing 48,000 naira. Labor is saying 615,000 naira. And they are saying that government is not showing the necessary seriousness to really address this and decided to pull out of that conversation. Even the government is saying they should return to the negotiating table. We had, speaking with us, public affairs analyst Dayo Lumuwagun before we went on the break. He's still very much with us now to continue this conversation. Dayo, the matter of the viability of states to be able to pay this sum is another question right now. We recall that even the 30,000 naira minimum wage, a majority of states struggled to pay. Some are even still owing their workers as it is. But in recent times, we have seen states like Edo State increase the wages to 70,000 naira, and even Lagos State saying it had also increased the wages of its workers to 70,000 naira. When Labour went to meet with some of these states, they were also talking about what they can offer to the people as it is. Should we now be looking at the minimum wage at state level as against having a general or centralized wage as it is?
So I think looking at it, I mean, using decentralized wage or minimum wage, or looking at it from the state level, is it is something that has to be deliberated, discussed, and agreed by parties. But again, it boils down to the sincerity of our leaders, whether in the national government or the state government. It's the sincerity of our leader, because you go to some of the states. So, for example, in Edo and Lagos that you referenced, how is it possible that they are able to meet? I mean, they have increased to 70,000 and they have their paying and all of that. How are they going to? How are they footing those bills? And is Edo and Lagos the richest of all the states in Nigeria? So again, it boils down to the sincerity of our leaders, whether at the state level or at the federal level. And this is what I say. So even if you go to some of those states, you will discover that worker has not been employed for several years. Go whether it's teachers or whatever, you see that most workers have not. I mean, there's no regular recruitment. The people are retiring and they're leaving the workforce, and there's no replacement. And is it that the allocation they get every month continue to do that it cannot sustain again, or are we spending on the wrong things? And what is the cost? What is the money for value for the things we spend money on? What value do we get? So I think it's just about getting things right. Leadership in times of what is government expected to really do for the people. Is government, like some people think, is just to rob the masses? I mean, where you conduct election and you loot the people dry. Is that what government is all about? Or to actually should be a balance of understanding. There should be a balance of some of these assumptions.
But has labor itself engaged these states as they should, especially those who have not necessarily met up to their responsibilities?
So, I mean, you see, again, maybe neither here. You go for state to engage government, and it's a democracy. You need to engage. Again, you go to some of those states, and the question will be how ready are some of these governments to. The way the Nigerian system is designed today, you agree with me that governors are practically emperors in their state. They do what they want to do, and not necessarily what the people want. Yes, there should be consultation. There should be a compromise, but it's all important to what people have seen government to be in Nigeria, especially our politicians and our leaders, what they have seen the people to be and what they're ready to negotiate for the people, give to the people.
Right. We'll have to leave the conversation.
Right.
We'll have to leave this conversation here now. Public Affairs Analyst Dayo Lumuagu, thank you so much for your time on the program. One point he was making before we had to wrap up the conversation is the matter of looking into the Constitution, especially with regards to resource control, how it's supposed to be in the federating or in a federation as it is. The federating units are supposed to contribute to the center as it is. But because most of these states do not have control over their resources, the monies they make, it's not something they are controlling, and all of it, they cannot foot certain bills from the conversations we've had with some persons right here. And so perhaps we need to begin to rethink. That's why some have called for true federalism, looking at our constitution again, if we're talking about having that kind of democracy where the people really thrive.
Others will still want to argue against, because they will say Nigeria, what makes Nigeria is not, not just states, but it's what they contribute to the federal, government, and in turn, the federal government shares, across the states. Because if you say, okay, this is our oil, we have to, control it, we have to use it to our own benefit. then what about what about other states?
They have
that do
resources.
not
There
have
is no state in
as
this
much-
country that does not have a resource.
No, I'm saying that some will bring up the argument. So they will now say, they would say that, okay, so we don't have as much as you have because
other states,
yours
so we are
is
contributing
much more
so
like a
meager.
mainstay. So we just have to, share it. But then I feel it's all about the ingenuity of the government and the governors. Well, the person at the airport G that talk about the president and the governors. The governors, there are so many other, low-hanging fruits that they can also, tap from to make their states, real viable. But then we still must change the constitution. Very good that the president had written to, the state. I mean, the governors.
Okay.
Not just state policing, but for local governments, for
Autonomy.
for INEC to conduct, elections for these local governments and all of that. So we really need to look at these things, from the